Welcome back to the explosive world of Cavis and Milliward. Or should I say, the roast of Cavis and Milliward. Seriously, what is it with this duo and their thing with fires? Cavis and Milliward are an interesting case study. One that deserves more than just a video on an Easter carol. Yeah, that's right, I reviewed that video already, so go check that out. Oh my god, Cavis and Milliward. Today we're gonna dive into the Cavis and Milliward lore. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, there's lore behind this dynamic duo. So, how did Cavis and Milliward end up working in Mr. Nezer's Easter egg factory? And how did they get it to explode? Again, because fires, that's a thing in this universe. It seemed like Cavis and Milliward's road to committing arson started with the Star of Christmas. And they also committed a bunch of other crimes, but we'll get to them when we get to them. Since the holiday season is here, it's fitting that we cover how Cavis and Milliward got their start in showbiz. Now, as for my Barnaby obsession, for those of you who want me to stop that generation or has had enough of my obsession and want me to just stop right now, well, I make no promises. The film starts with Cavis and Milliward trying to figure out how to bring entertainment to the people of London. Oh, I'm sorry. How to teach London how to love.
This isn't a happy place, Milliward. I wanted our songs to bring joy and love.
Kind of like how Phil Vischer wanted to be the Christian Disney of children's entertainment. Now, keep in mind that this special was released after the Jonah movie in October 2002, even though the special was originally supposed to be released in July of that year. Ew, fun fact, Big Idea had to split itself into two different productions. One group was working on Jonah, while the other worked on this one. So you could bet that there was a lot of crunch time going on. Want to crunch for time? Well, there you go. So you can bet in this scene that that's Phil himself talking right from Cavis's mouth. When was the bankruptcy? Oh, got it. But let's save the downward spiral for later, shall we? Cavis has high hopes for putting together the biggest stage production ever in London, that we zoom into a shot of a newspaper where we get the title card, and we get our first scene with Mr. Nezer handing over his theater to the boys.
I don't know how we can repay you.
Don't worry, I'll think of something.
Sure, boys, I'll think of something once I buy the rights to A Christmas Carol so that I can make it about Easter eggs. By the way, where's Charles Dickens? I got a bone to pick with him. Oh, right. He and my grandma hang out at the same spot. Damn it. Anyway, we see more of Seymour. See more of Seymour. You're making me do tongue twisters. Dang it. We learned that Cavis has commissioned Seymour to invent light bulbs or something, and Milliward has to finish writing a script, but he can't find something that rhymes with possum. Might I suggest awesome? Bam! Came up with that in a millisecond. Another thing that the boys need to make their production a success is to get plenty of press release for it. They mention a prince who has production critic power over what makes for a great show for some reason. But in today's day and age, all you need is a large social media presence and boom! Plus, they need celebrities. Again, in this day and age, all you need are internet personalities. Simple as that. So things are starting to fall into place until they hit a roadblock known as the Church Christmas Pageant. Because opening night is on the exact same night as Cavis and Milliward's show. What? How dare the church try to take Christmas away from secular media? You know how many times people try to put Christ back in Christmas? You know how many people still go to church regardless of how many times Pureflix tries to tell us that corporate is spoiling the true meaning of Christmas? This is why I can't stand Pureflix, because it doesn't know how to stop throwing stones in glass houses. Meanwhile, Junior Edmund, or whoever he wants to call himself in this special, is helping out with the Christmas pageant. Whoop-de-doo.
Wear a clothespin on your nose. You'll be fine.
How did you end up with crutches later on? By the way, Cavis ends up getting attention from a news reporter from the London Gazette.
The star hasn't been publicly displayed since February 12, 1803. That's big news! Arthur Hollingshead, reporter for the London Post-Gazette. Young man, you've given me a fine story.
Oh, so that's where Animator 2000 got that quote from.
That's astonishing. The star hasn't been publicly displayed since February 12th, 1803, due to chief security risks of the reigns of King Charles the Greedy and Cedric the Alley to anything star-shaped. That's big news. Arthur Hollington, reporter for the London Post-Gazette. Young man, you've given me a fine story.
Thanks, Ultimate Unofficial VeggieTales Podcast, episode number 16. So Cavis learns that the church is going to use a special relic known as the Star of Christmas in their show. At first, Cavis doesn't think that this would get any kind of publicity, but then it's in the papers. Wow, newspapers, you know how to work fast.
We were gonna put on a show so big, so beautiful, it was gonna show London how to love.
Cavis, I want to know what would solve y'all's problem. You want to know? You want to know? Here's my 2 cents. Listen. If you guys change the date of your show, that would solve everything. There you go. I mean, it can't be that hard to do, seeing that this VeggieTales special was pushed back from July to October of 2002. And I really hate to bring this up again, but if this story took place in today's world, you wouldn't have any problems. I mean, come on. Streaming services, having a live stream. God, you guys should have been in the here and now. That would have made things a lot easier for you guys. But instead, the prince is opting to go to the Christmas pageant rather than the stage play. So...
Then there's no need for a show like this. And gentlemen, let me be the first to show you the way out!
Okay, that's not what happens. But he does show them the broom closet. Too bad it's not the one from the Daily Bumble. So next course of action, go big or go home. More lights, more over-the-top acting.
Your toilet exploded, you're flushing in.
They'll even suspend Charles Dickens' corpse and make it fly around. Okay, they don't do that last part, but seriously, I'm starting to think that this show predicted the future Big Idea. How it got screwed over by the bankruptcy. Anyway, how long until we start roasting the theater? But then again, them brute forcing their way to stardom goes in vain because the prince rather go to the Christmas pageant because of the Star of Christmas relic. Well, time to turn into a meme. Yeah, that's when you know that the crime spree is about to begin. The church is locked up for the night and Moyer is the last person to leave. But that doesn't stop Cavis and Milliward from sneaking into the church. Somehow! Well, they got what they needed. What can possibly go wrong?
Let's get out of here.
Trying to steal my stuff, are we?
Just kidding. Cavis and Milliward try to escape Moyer the Destroyer. Yeah, that's a thing. Don't question it. And we get one of the best scenes in the film. You know, I totally forgot how funny this scene was. Granted, I haven't seen this special in years. The last time I saw this special was on PBS. No kidding. They actually aired this on PBS one time. So after revisiting this special years later, oh my god, this is comedy gold. You get Cavis going up and down a lift. You get Milliward trying to figure out what's going on. You get Moyer saying random stuff as he chases after our heroes.
That's the last straw, yo-yo tomato. I'm gonna yo-yo-yo.
God, I'm laughing so hard at this. Oh, right, they crashed into a window. Just kidding. But they did fall out of a church window. Don't worry, they survived that brush with death.
Are we moving?
As we cut to the next day, where we have dress rehearsal for the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Can't wait until they get Bowser to sing Peaches. Oh my gosh, you just know that the animators at Big Idea had an epiphany that their company was going to go down the tubes financially at some point. It's like I'm watching their downfall in real time. To make matters worse, Cavis and Milliward get arrested for stealing from the church. Thanks for letting us know that they're felons by showing off their mugshots. Merry Christmas! In jail, they meet Mr. Pincher, who laughs at their situation, saying that bright lights won't show people what love is. Okay, wait a minute. Let me put a pin in that. So, the moral of the story, supposedly, is that there's a true love behind Christmas, right? And it comes from the birth of Jesus, who's also called Emmanuel, which means God with us.
That's what God did on Christmas. And she shall give birth to a son, and they shall call him Emmanuel, God with us.
Thanks, Dad Asparagus. So that implies that God is the true source of love, rather than a stage play, or any kind of media having to hammer down that message of love. In other words, do we really need things like PureFlix to tell us how to be good Christians when we can just go to church, read the Bible, and seek God on our own? So yeah, I totally understand where Mr. Pincher is coming from, even though we've just met him for 2 minutes. But then we learned that Cavis and Milliward were bailed out of jail by the Reverend and Edmund, and that all charges were dropped by the judge.
It means we aren't gonna press charges.
The judge says you can go.
What judge? I don't know. So that's the true meaning of love, getting off scot-free. So you would think that things would fall into place and they would go to church and everybody would live happily ever after. But Phil Vischer said, "No way, Jose, let's create a little friction." Now, what have I told you? It took Edmund and his dad an hour to get from the church to the jailhouse. Also, Seymour lets Cavis and Milliward borrow his vehicle to get everyone to the church. And this leads to the group racing to the church at Mach speeds. You would think that I'm crazy, but look.
Well, the pageant starts in 10 minutes, and it took us more than an hour to walk over here.
Seymour, remember how you promised I could take the rocket carriage for a ride sometime?
Especially when you consider the fact that they might be unknowingly committing more crimes, telling by how they fly by people, stores, and buildings. But then again, as we've seen just now, this movie's legal system is lenient. Super lenient. Oh no, it's Ned Flanders! Oh, yeah, and they used the last rocket to zoom over the bridge. Guess London Bridge ain't gonna fall down. Are you sure that that's not how Edmund had those crutches come Easter? So we learned that Cavis and Milliward didn't actually steal the real Star of Christmas, because the real Star of Christmas was actually, like I said earlier, Jesus. You know, symbolism. But then moments later, they show the real Star of Christmas being a special star in a box. I mean, doesn't that kind of ruin the message of Jesus being the true love behind Christmas, especially with them showing the empty manger on stage? By the way, Percy P is going to need a severance package for being in bad working conditions, seeing that he's forced to work with cotton that he's apparently allergic to. Oh, and just in case you forgot that an Easter Carol is a thing.
I suppose you heard about the theater.
So I figured you two can work for me in my factory until it's paid off.
Oh yeah, 'cause the theater burned down. Remember? Remember that, folks? Remember that, kids? Now this last scene really speaks volumes, especially now since I'm revisiting this. The scene starts off with Mr. Pincher still in his jail cell. Cavis and Milliward show up with Christmas cookies and hot chocolate, along with a wreath and a gift. And the scene ends with Cavis telling him,
Merry Christmas, Mr. Pincher.
Now, back then, I didn't really understand why the scene played out the way it did. What really confused me back then was that there was no dialogue in that scene. It was just, O come, Emmanuel, singing in the background. And the only line we got was the Merry Christmas, Mr. Pincher line. Back then, I thought it was kind of awkward because there was little to no dialogue in that scene. But now, after watching this years later, I understand why. Like I always said, show, don't tell. And it works out really great in this scene. You feel that welcoming feeling as Cavis enters the room with the hot chocolate and cookies. You get that warm feeling when Millward hangs the wreath on the wall. You get that sense of wonder when Mr. Pincher gets up and sees what's going on. And you even smile when Millward presents Mr. Pincher with a wrapped gift. And everything comes together when you hear Cavis say,
Merry Christmas, Mr. Pincher.
oh my God, that is so beautiful. Ah! Well, it could have been worse. Right, Cavis? The Star of Christmas is truly a spectacle, whether it's aware of it or not. It's one of those specials that grab your attention for reasons that might differ from theirs. While the message might fall on deaf ears for some people, at least said people would appreciate this special for the lulz and the memes. So yeah, everyone wins this holiday season. At least with this one, it didn't have to rely on already established source material like what an Easter Carol did to A Christmas Carol. Instead, it told an original story of how two showmen wanted to bring love to their town by putting on a big show on Christmas, only to learn that the true meaning of love is from the birth of Jesus Christ. That speaks more volumes than an Easter Carol where someone can just say, well, it's just a Christmas Carol but with Easter sprinkled all over it. While I still love the concept of hope, and even the song that the angel sings in that one, I love that song, by the way. You can't help but relate to Cavis and Milliward's situation where they go big or go home on the work that they do, only to realize, hey, we have this all wrong. We can't forget what the true meaning of love is, especially in the Christmas season. So yeah, I think this special has a lot more substance than an Easter Carol. Even though we learn now that fires are a thing in the Cavis and Milliward lore. Well, what can you do? Anyway, toodles. Yeah, those were my thoughts on the Star of Christmas, or the roast of Cavis and Milliward, or whatever you want to call this. Yep, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. But hey, if Big Idea ever wanted to do a third episode of Cavis and Milliward, no. You know what? No, scratch that. I don't want a series. I'd rather have a Larry Boy movie than those two. I want a Larry Boy movie, damn it. One that you can see in theaters. Big Idea, quit stalling. Get your act together. Make something already, rather than your stupid ass podcast. Please. Alright, I'm gonna stop rambling. It's Christmas. We gotta be happy. La 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 la. Anyways, your girl LarryBoy Fanatic, the eyes and plunging ears of the LarryBoy multiverse. Yeah, Merry Christmas to all, and to all, well, you get the idea.